All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're deconstructing Psalm 36, a really fascinating ancient poem that masterfully uses stark structural contrasts to build this terrifying psychological profile of wrongdoing. And then, it drops us straight into a backdrop of immense cosmic justice. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of literature, so let's break down exactly how it works.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be moving chronologically through 4 parts. First, the anatomy of transgression. Second, the cosmic shift. Third, the fountain of life. And finally, petition and resolution.
To really ground our analysis in the source text, we need to note the attribution right at the top. It reads, "To the choir master of David, the servant of the Lord." Now, this historical context is key because it tells us right out of the gate that this isn't just some private journal entry. Nope, it's a deliberate composition meant to be heard by a much wider audience.
Okay, let's get into part 1, the anatomy of transgression, where we'll unpack the internal psychology of wrongdoing.
Right away, the text does something brilliant. It doesn't just treat transgression as a bad action, it actually personifies it. It describes transgression as an internal voice that speaks deep in his heart. So this internal companion is essentially whispering and deceiving, ultimately creating a reality for this person where there is absolutely no fear of God whatsoever.
The author structures this psychological breakdown in a terrifyingly relatable step-by-step descent. First up, the individual flatters himself, totally convinced his wrongdoing is hidden. Second, that internal pride leaks out into deceitful speech. Third, it turns into active physical plotting while lying in bed. And finally, he firmly commits to a dark path. It's literally a textbook progression from a single internal thought all the way to an outward physical commitment.
Think about how intensely intimate and claustrophobic this setting is. The text says he plots trouble while on his bed. The malice we're seeing here isn't spontaneous at all. It's calculated in the absolute quietest, most isolated moments of a person's life, showing a complete failure to reject evil even when they are utterly alone. Okay, so right when we feel completely trapped in this dark, tight psychological space, boom, the poem executes this massive pivot. It transitions abruptly from the confined space of a human mind plotting in a bedroom out to the unimaginably vast scale of the universe. It's serious literary whiplash, and it forces you to completely reorient your perspective. Which brings us to part 2, the cosmic shift, a sudden transition to divine scale. You know, Hebrew poetry relies heavily on parallelism rather than rhyme, mapping abstract concepts to immense physical realities. And this imagery totally shatters the claustrophobia we were just feeling. Steadfast love, it extends to the heavens. Faithfulness reaches the clouds. Righteousness is compared to immovable mountains, and judgments to the great deep. It is just an overwhelming, massive expansion of scope. But here's a really surprising detail. This cosmic scale isn't just some empty, terrifying void. It extends its saving reach to all living things, man and beast alike. It's an environment filled with a very active, preserving power that sustains the entire natural order.
Moving on to part 3, the fountain of life, finding refuge in the vastness.
Now, the imagery radically flips again. We go from the barren plodding of the wicked to a lush sensory feast of divine provision. Instead of plodding in the dark, subjects are taking refuge under protective wings. They're feasting on abundance and drinking from literal rivers of delight. It's just an absolute outpouring of sustenance and life.
And this absolutely nails the core thesis of the entire poem. True life and illumination are completely dependent on this expansive, divine source. It's a direct contrast to the self-deception we saw earlier. Remember in the first verses where the evildoer flattered himself in his own eyes? Well, here, true vision is only possible through divine light. In your light do we see light.
Finally, part 4, petition and resolution, the collision of the two worlds. Here is where the author synthesizes the whole shebang. They petition for that heaven-reaching steadfast love to continue, specifically asking for it to shield them from the foot of arrogance and the hand of the wicked that we mapped out in the very first verses. So this grand, sweeping cosmic theology is being applied directly to a very real, very personal threat. Now, this explainer wouldn't be complete without looking at this definitive final image. The wicked, who were previously so busy plotting on their beds, are permanently cast down. The tension resolves perfectly. The pride that started as a whisper, deep in the heart, leads to a complete, inescapable downfall on the outside. As we wrap up this structural deconstruction, Psalm 36 really does leave us with a timeless mirror to reflect upon. We've seen the suffocating isolation of arrogance, starkly contrasted against the breathtaking expanse of cosmic justice. So I'll leave you with this to think about. When confronted by the extremes of human arrogance, where do you seek your refuge?